My name is Sylvette Canna Reynolds, and I served in the United States Army for 10 years, from 1981 to 1991. My first job, I was a truck driver, and then I also was a drill sergeant, so I trained civilians to turn into soldiers. Being in the Army, it's pretty physical. It was really hard, but I did enjoy being a drill sergeant. That was very rewarding for me. You know, nothing against the male soldiers, and I really hate to say this, but this is the truth. You experience a lot of sexual harassment. And I probably would say most women do. Some just don't say anything about it. And some of it is just verbal, but it's still sexual harassment. For me, I had military sexual trauma. So mine was more than verbal. I wound up in the hospital from it. And then I wound up in counseling for a year. I have physical injuries too, but I wound up having a kidney disease. And I wound up having PTSD and some other physical illnesses. And so they just set my records to get out. I didn't want to get out. I thought 10 years, I'm going to make 20. So that was pretty devastating for me, very devastating. So when I got out, I put in a claim. And PTSD, my physical injuries, they're all in my records. I mean, I was hospitalized. I was in counseling for a year. I'm thinking, what more do they need? And they denied it. And when I put in an appeal, I never heard anything. And I think at that time in my life, I was in a really dark place. I just let it go. I just couldn't focus anymore on that. I just wasn't there emotionally. At the time, I was working as a flight attendant for Delta. And another coworker, she was also a veteran, and I was just going through a lot in life. PTSD was kicking up, and it was hard. And she encouraged me to open up my claim. I did have a veteran service representative, and I did get to 70%. And I was persistent that I wanted 100 and that I would get 100. The veteran service representative told me I wouldn't get 100%. So I'm a pretty determined woman. I decided I was going to get a lawyer. I just went on the internet. I contacted Greg. He would take my case. And what really made me decide to hire Greg was, one, is he's a veteran, so he was able to relate to some things. And the second one he said to me was, the organization that you want to hire is just as good. And I just want you to know that. And I really, really respected that. He went through every single piece of paper in my file, every piece. And when he did that, that's when he called me. He said, you know, you have an appeal that was never rectified. I didn't even remember that. He said, we can fight this because it's considered still open. And that's going back to 1991. And I met Greg in about 2016. I was very impressed with him. I had my days that I was like, I don't know. And I had my days that I was like, yeah, we're going to beat this. And then when we did that face-to-face with a judge, we won. Personally, there was a lot of pressure relieved. I was relieved. I think it also lifted my confidence more in my self-esteem in myself, because if there's something you're trying to achieve and you don't quit and you listen to your lawyer, like I listened to Greg Rada, you can be successful. He made such a huge difference in my life.